Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
Mwakwa the PENDREAM TV. Make sure so be subscribe to channel. No click bell. No so say the news to house on sabe to me. I can't tell no what here. Them say PENDREAM TV the other day and now they are seven. Some the beto dwa near their bro now so when you be a tea. No one near corner near by our my moha. Eya honorable Adongo. Yeah, Adongo. Oh no, and I will good morning TV, good morning Ghana. So Metro TV, no, I didn't send be able to drive IMF sika. I say I buy can. Ya no no ochire all can say. Sa IMF deal we are but there are some very details. Eye hu a ebema oman aha e pan and so aban no empesa Ghana for ebe hu nsam. Esan say conditions omodi amaye e wo IMF deal ni mu conditions any good conditions ebe favor ye Ghana for NTA say oman for ehwe ni ye pan esan say ya hwe ni a banks omo collapse no banks more esa be collapse bio because of that IMF deal na abano details it's not something that is going to benefit Ghana at all, although yes Canada ba kwan be fa so a fulfill payment of scano there be ha Ghana pa bia ne say enche China for be take over electricity ne mineral revenue no when is same bebre no kan me nkasa bebre yonko ti nsema Adongo editu dwa. Oh, good morning Ghana.
So you, especially you, Adongo, you are on record. If anybody Googles your name and debt, if you just Google Adongo Ghana debt, it will play back or show us news items of what you have said about our levels of indebtedness or our borrowing from 2018, I believe, till today. Eventually, we landed at the IMF. We got a program, although we are not done with the external part. So I don't know what is yet to come. But at least we got a program. The IMF held a joint press conference with Ghana. The IMF has published the staff report and statement. That's the country report number 23/168. We now know. We've seen an investors presentation by our own finance minister and governor. Now, just about this, I would say expectedly, you try to put a spanner in the works by suggesting that people went there gallivanting and were terrible at negotiation and we didn't do really well. I think that, to be honest with the situation, beyond the issue of the expected 600 million, and I think the last few days, the issue of what this really will mean in terms of the financial situation of many Ghanaians is also played up a bit as a result of the announcement by the PURC of the electricity tariffs. But I think that people are yet to come to terms with what exactly this ECF, what this extended credit facility means for Ghana, what this program means, and whether we are done with this program.
Yes, thank you, Randy. If you recall, the key expressions that have used since 2018 has been a warning to the government of Ghana that we are experiencing heightened fiscal and external vulnerabilities.
Correct.
This has always been my expression. And that is exactly what the IMF is saying today, and had warned them that we're on the path of ending where we have ended. And I'm not surprised. But Randy, when I say this program is not properly negotiated, there's a sense in which I say that. One, if you ask the people of Ghana to name your team that negotiated this program, you'll struggle to find one beyond the finance minister and occasional presence of the governor. You'll struggle. And then it's consultants that it uses. You'll struggle to find one. But this is a national program. It is a Ghana program. And you need to bring on board varied expertise in order to come up with a program that is enduring and that gets to the bottom of the problem. That is one. Two, Randy, I want to put on record that the IMF took the decision, in my view, to save this economy upon an SOS letter jointly signed by the Ministers for Finance and the governor to the IMF a few weeks ago, to the governor, to the managing director, in which they had painted an alarming situation if this deal was not approved. And I dare say that if you read the release that came from the bilateral creditor committee for the debt treatment we applied for, nowhere in that release did the creditor committee say that they had reached any financing assurances for Ghana.
Really?
No, nowhere. Nowhere in that release was that said. And yet the IMF took that to imply that there was a financing assurance from the creditor committee. And I dare say it's no. I believe strongly that we don't even have financing assurances. But this was needed to save the economy. Period. We were still not compliant. You see, the issue of financing assurances is a conclusive agreement with the creditors, in which the creditors agree to surrender their original rights in the old loan agreements that is signed with you, and to say that we won't go back and enforce those agreements anymore. But that we have reached a new arrangement, which is a restructuring, that now defines the obligations of Ghana and the right of the creditor. And on the basis of that, if you plug the numbers, you might see that we are becoming debt sustainable. There is no such an MOU from the creditor committee to the government of Ghana. And Randy, if you read this document carefully, paragraph 50 of this document, it alludes to the fact that we don't have such financing assurances. Paragraph 50 says, and I want to quote, it says that staff expects to receive in due time sufficient assurances that the ongoing debt restructuring will generate financing consistent with program parameters and will restore debt sustainability. The next paragraph. Staff is comfortable that sufficient assurances will be delivered by the official bilateral creditors under the common framework before consideration of Ghana's request for an arrangement under the ECF.
So what is it that gives them that assurance?
It isn't.
That something will happen.
Exactly. Yes. So if that is the case, Sri Lanka, there's a creditor committee set up. Why is that not being interpreted to mean financing assurances? Zambia has had a creditor committee set up several years now. Why is that not being interpreted to mean financing assurances? Now, you would
could there be something that the IMF knows that you and I don't know?
Well, but I have a document, and the process of financing assurances are issues of fact. They are not conjecture.
Yes.
Evidenced by a memorandum of understanding varying the original agreement to which they can be committed. We don't have that.
No, my question to you, what I want to understand is that how come that in the absence of this, what you've spoken about, which is factual, which is the case, how come in the absence of that, the board of the IMF will still be comforted enough to go ahead and grant us a program? There must be something. There must be something.
So Randy,
yes,
Ghana is a poster boy of the IMF.
Okay.
Ghana has always been a low-hanging fruit for the IMF when it comes to demonstrating a country that will deliver and that will give the IMF a good name. And don't forget that there is serious opposition to the IMF and the Bretton Woods institutions across the globe. And they have a client who potentially can tell a good story. But also don't forget that they have learned from the experiences of Sri Lanka and Zambia, where the delays have derailed the economies. And you don't want to be agreeing at a program when it becomes almost impossible to reverse the damage that has been done. So to that extent, it makes sense that the IMF will do everything to help Ghana. That is my first point. But Randy, if I say the program is badly structured, what is our biggest problem in terms of going to the IMF? Our biggest problem is their sustainability. Okay, we currently are assessed to be unsustainable in terms of our public debt. We are doing about 104% of GDP in terms of debt coverage. And that is what we seek to address. The rippling effect of that is that we have huge debt service, which is beginning to affect the reserves that we get, because now you have to pay the offshore in dollars and all of that. Look at the indicative numbers published in this report. And you will find that even by the end of this program, the projection is that we'll still be doing very elevated levels of debt to GDP. 86%.
Huh?
86%.
Which page are you reading from?
Page 3.
3.
Yes. Look at the debt to GDP numbers. We currently are ending 2020. We ended 2022 with 88. We are looking to end 2023 around 98. It will come down to 92, 90, and then we'll end with the program around 2026 at actually 86.4%. Does this solve the problem? Randy, does it look like a solution?
No.
Does this look like a solution? And this is what we have signed on to, that we are celebrating. In other words, we should be looking at another program by the end of the program. If 70% debt to GDP is worrying, how do you call 86% of GDP by the close? So despite all the sacrifices, the pain, the anguish that we are going to go through, this is what the program will deliver. That is one. Unless, I'm told, probably rightly so, that because they don't have the financing assurances, they are unable to affect these numbers, and these numbers are still remain historical numbers.
No, but that should be the case.
That is
because you can only plug in what you know.
So,
and until the external comes, they can't plug that in.
And now they don't even know that.
Yes, but
Okay.
they
so what are
but they believe that
so
something will come.
So what have they signed? These are the indicative numbers.
Yes.
And these are what we have signed on to deliver. Okay, if you look at the parameters, the performance criteria, they are not different from this. So what program are we really holding? If you hold this, what has IMF given us? No solution. Randy, the other bigger problem is that some of the trade-offs are really inimical to the growth and development of our country. The IMF agrees in this document that as a result of DDEP, we are going to suffer a trade-off in economic growth. And if you look at the projections of economic growth, you are seeing 2%, 1.5%, 2.8%, peaking at 5% by the close of the program. But Randy, what are the trade-offs? The trade-offs is that we are undertaking two sets of adjustments. We expect a 1.1% growth in revenue to GDP in 2023. But in subsequent years, we expect only 0.5% growth in revenue. Cumulatively over a 3-year period, we are expecting to grow revenue to GDP by only 3% to 18.7%. But we are expecting to adjust expenditure by 2.1%. So cumulatively, a 5.1% fiscal adjustment is what is required. Where are we getting those things from? Randy, we are supposed to cut capital expenditure by 0.9%. So there won't be development. We have to reprioritize and cut capital expenditure. We are expected to control the wage bill, one, by providing rigidity in the upward adjustment of wage bill, and two, when somebody says that they have not proposed a freeze on employment, then the person has not read this document. This document is saying that we should make a savings of 0.5% of the wage bill. And this will be done two things. slow down increase in wage bill and hiring. What it then means is that we are not going to lay you off, but if for some reason you leave the public sector, we are not going to add on. So that in the end, we will get 0.5% of GDP savings. Not 0.5% of staff numbers, but 0.5%. These are numbers, these are money. How do you make money if you are not reducing numbers? So that is what is going to happen.
Explain something to me.
Yes.
Are we expected to save 0.5% of our compensation cost or 0.5% of GDP from our compensation cost?
0.5% of GDP from our compensation cost over the duration of the program.
Whoa.
So how can you achieve it?
Whoa.
How can that not be a freeze?
Whoa.
Do you get it? So that is what the report is saying. I don't know why people are seeing something different, but that is what it is, Randy. Beyond that, it also says that even our statutory funds, we should reduce it by another 0.4% after all the capping that has happened. With National Health Insurance Authority struggling to fund its operations. Get Fund being saddled with 1.2 billion Ghana cedis of debt service because of the Hunhundios Dachi bonds. They now have just about 56 million to distribute for the whole of the year. From Get Fund collections of about 4.2 billion, they only have about 56 million left for the year. They are still saying, go and take 0.4% of that. The next condition is that we must reduce our goods and services budget by about 0.5%. That I agree. But what this means is that the trade-off is human, which is the wage bill, and it is employment. The other trade-off is that we are not going to see roads in our communities, even though they are constructing roads somewhere. We are not going to see water. We are not going to see development because we are sacrificing close to 1% of GDP in terms of capital expenditure.
But won't there then be an alternative? Because this you will be referring to GOG financing.
No, these are GOG financing.
Yeah, GOG financing. Yeah. And so, for example, the expectation, if you read what the finance minister said, he spoke about the fact that yes, we will not be rushing to the capital market, but then he also provides a proviso to say that, okay, we also need issues of our credibility and all that, and so it is a place that we'll definitely go to. So it could well be that the strategy is that GOG financing of such projects will drop per these conditionalities. But once the international market is open, it could be an avenue to deal with those, to finance those things.
So already we are dealing with a program with a lifespan. It's a 3-year program. So we are discussing, we are not conjecturing what happens later.
Yes.
We are discussing what has been concretized as the program for 3 years.
I agree with you.
And the program does not envisage us going to the capital market in the next 3 years.
Really?
Eurobond financing is zero.
For the next 3 years?
For the next 3 years. Commercial loans is sealed at 66 million, including guarantees.
66 million what?
Ghana cedis.
A year?
A year. $66 million, a year.
Okay.
It's a performance criterion. Bank of Ghana financing zero.
Yes.
So over the next 3 years, he shouldn't be dreaming because the IMF has put a cap on him.
Unless they are grants.
Unless they are grants. But there's a cap on him. As a matter of fact, the gap that has been added, you see, in this report, there are very revealing things. Do you know last time we sat here, we were discussing our budget, 2023. We were discussing debt service of 74 billion Ghana cedis. Do you know what they have indicated for the debt service?
What?
171 billion.
Where is that from?
Randy, I'm telling you.
Where is the figure from?
Huh?
Where did that figure come from?
So they should tell us why they got that figure to give to IMF and came to give us.
This is which page?
This is, I think. Your eyes are better. This 38, page 38.
So your eyes are not good. Did he say that?
38, page 38.
And for our viewers who keep wondering what we're referring to, this is the IMF country report number 23/1.
I beg, leave it there.
That is a Ghana request for an arrangement under the extended credit facility.
Run the table 2C.
I've seen it.
Look at debt service.
Public sector gross financing needs.
Good.
And sources.
I'll come to that. Look at debt service.
27.
Debt service for 2023, 171.9 billion. Does that look like anything we saw in the budget?
Yeah, I see that here. Debt service. So for 2021, it was 89.1.
Yeah.
For 2022, it was 120.5. For 2023, 171.9 billion.
Good. Randy, have you ever seen any of these numbers? 89, 120, and now 171.
Could it be?
Yeah.
Could it be that some of the debts that had hitherto not been reported in the government books by the Ministry of Finance, which the IMF insisted should be made a part of our debts, be responsible for this difference?
Even if you were to add that debt, all of it together and put it here, you won't get that figure. How much are they?
Okay.
Dachi, how much is it?
Okay.
ESLA, how much is it? If you were to treat all of that as payment in 1 year, you won't get this 171.9 billion. So clearly, you know what this means? We're underreporting our public debt.
Because Dachi is 1.4 billion.
Yes.
ESLA is 4.8.
If you put them together.
So the two together is 6.2.
If you put them together and you decide
but
to pay.
But this is not even the service in it, the total.
No, even if you decide you are even paying it off, it is in, and it is.
So what would explain this?
Cooking. What we have been saying every day. When the headmaster came, we got the truth.
But
Randy,
no.
I saw my figure.
No, but I'm not saying it's your figure.
This is the government.
But the gap between, so for example,
it's about 100 billion.
Yeah, for example, in the budget statement for 2023, what was the figure for debt service? The
debt service was 52 billion.
Okay.
Plus amortization of 22 billion.
Okay.
Bringing it to 74 billion.
Okay.
The two of them put together is debt service, 74 billion.
Yes.
But here, they are reporting debt service, 171.9 billion.
Yeah, I can see that.
Randy, does that look like we are safe?
That's like an extra 100 billion.
Where was that figure? So the deficit they were reporting to us, these numbers, 120 billion in 1 year in 2022. Did you see any figure like that? So this is the level.
Let's go back one, please. Please indulge me. Let's go back one.
Let's go.
This 171.9 at least is a projection
for the year.
Yes, but in 2022,
actual.
This document deals with an actual, which is 120.5. What was?
I don't remember the figure, but it doesn't come anywhere near even 50 billion.
How?
Randy, you don't know them. Are you now hearing this? I've been telling you that these people, they are financial engineers. I've been using this word. You don't listen. These are financial engineers. Look at the numbers. Do they look like numbers you are familiar with? So, Randy, how can you?
I mean, for 2021, the actual 2021 was 89.1 billion.
Yeah.
89.1 billion. 2021. Debt service.
And 2023 is supposed to be higher than the last 2 years.
In 2021, what was our total revenue? Yeah, in 2021, what was our total revenue?
2021
because
was about 105 billion.
Total revenue.
Yeah. Randy, I'm coming to something. You understand where that
Hussein has the answers.
You get where I'm going if you take your time.
Please
take your time.
Please.
Yesterday, the governor released the summary economic and financial data.
Yes.
And said that somehow our total public debt had declined by 141 to some 400 and something billion. At a debt to GDP of 71%.
Yes.
For 2022.
Yes.
This is the document he presented.
It starts at December 20.
Yes. December 20.
Yes.
Randy, the document that I am referring to ends in December 2022. Is that not it?
Yeah.
There's a figure here for December 2022.
The only thing is that this one deals with an estimate.
No, 2022.
Yes.
Actual. And he is also stating actual.
Okay, okay.
I'm coming.
Unless you are looking at table 3.
The same table that we're looking at.
Yeah,
the one that we're looking at, the debt to GDP and the rest.
Yes.
You will find that the debt to GDP that he reported at the end of December, okay, is not the figure he's quoting there. If you saw the one I showed you earlier, the debt to GDP is in the 90s. Table 3. Look at debt to GDP.
Yesterday, what date was he reporting?
December 2022 was 88.1. He's now reporting 71. Randy, this document that you are holding is the document that the Minister for Finance and the Governor of the Central Bank presented on the sidelines of the recently ended spring meetings last month at an investor forum.
Yes.
Just last month, that governor was quoting 88.1% debt to GDP at the end of December. But here, yesterday, he was quoting 71.
Between the meeting and yesterday,
What has changed?
could he
These are
have
actuals.
come by some data?
Actuals.
Yes.
And it is the same actuals here. The same 88 that is here, that he was reporting, is the same 88 in this document that the IMF has released only 2 days or 3 days ago. But he is still sitting there with this. Do you know that the IMF indicates in this report that by February 2023, our reserves were so low that they could only cover 0.5 months. That's 2 weeks.
Yes.
We haven't done March. We haven't done April. Okay? Yesterday, he was reporting gross reserves of $5.something billion, covering 2.4 months. Even before he received the IMF money. And yet, the projected flows from IMF and all other sources for the whole of this year is $4.2 billion. That $4.2 billion will assist the government of Ghana and the Bank of Ghana to build reserves to $1.7 billion at the end of the year. We are not even at the end of the year yet. The flows have not yet hit because in April we didn't have the 600 million. He was already doing 2.4 months. And this 1.7 will cover only 0.8 months of import cover. That 4.2 billion, they are expecting 1.2 billion from the IMF. So in addition to this 600 million, by the next review, if you meet the targets, we will get another 600 to make it 1.2 billion. And we expect another $530 million from the World Bank and what they refer to as residual gap of about 2.4 billion, which will come from the debt restructuring with external partners. Randy, your governor is already doing 2.4 months in April. When the project that he has gone to sign up is saying your reserves are so low that we will give you 1.2 billion from IMF. Don't spend that money, don't intervene in the market so that you build your reserves. We will give you a further 530 million from the World Bank. When you put that together, your reserve will go up to 1.7. These two figures gives you 1.7. What it simply means is that you cannot don't even have reserves. You don't have forex reserves now. That's what it technically means. And that we are going to give you 1.7 between IMF and the World Bank by the end of the year. Make sure you don't throw that money into the market. Suspend this, your parallel arrangement, where you have a Bank of Ghana rate and then the market rate. Harmonize the rates, because you are simply using that to cook the data and to more or less influence rates. So you have, I recently said that Bank of Ghana has the rate and Abuja have the dollars. You don't sell dollars, and yet you have a rate. When was the last time Bank of Ghana sold dollars? So how are they getting the rate? That they ended the year with 8.6 cedis to the dollar. Why were they buying those dollars or selling those dollars? So the World Bank, part of the condition is that going forward, they will harmonize and unify the forex rates and allow the market to determine. And that any time they are going to sell dollars, they should sell at the market rates. And that they should go back to use auction as the sole tool for releasing dollars onto the market. And that part of the reason we are here, you remember there was a day I told you that the Bank of Ghana governor said, don't be selling your dollars because there will be headwinds one day. The IMF is telling you that you threw all your dollars in the market in search of what they call the single-digit depreciation. Now we are doing 54%. And we don't even have the dollars anymore. The 600 million that has come, if you don't conclude the negotiation with your creditors, and by the way, the bilateral creditors, and that's what is funny, only constitute 8% of our debt, our public debt. 8% too. How can 8% be the reason why we now qualify on debt sustainability to gain an IMF program? 8%. In this table, they will give you a bar chart. And they say that the bilateral creditors only constitute 8% of our public debt. So if you want to become debt sustainable, is it because of the 8% we are not debt sustainable? So how come forming a committee to look at this 8% suddenly makes us debt sustainable, and for which reason we'll qualify for a program? And when you look at the program, look, now the automatic adjustments to electricity bills is a requirement in this program. Randy, do you know that the whole of last year, we didn't pay a penny to IPPs? Our total accumulation to IPPs at the end of 2022 was 19 billion. And we did not pay a penny. So what were they doing with our electricity money that we pay? Randy, when you go to buy power, don't you pay?
Yep.
Don't you pay?
I do.
So when the ECG boss was roaming around, locking people's offices and collecting money, what did they use those monies for? That they are not paying the IPPs. Contractors and other service providers alone is 25 billion. Randy, this program is saying that we are having arrears of 44 billion. And included in this program is zero accumulation from now till the end of the program.
How?
In other words, every year, whatever cost you incur, pay all. Don't leave any arrears. And as a matter of fact, you will now be measuring your deficit, your primary balance on a commitment basis. In other words, what you have paid for cash and what you have been invoiced that you have not paid, we will treat all as expenditure, because the report says that there were large extra budgetary commitments that were not reported. The IMF own language. Large extra budgetary commitments that were not reported. And so from now, we don't want you to be reporting on cash basis. Report on commitment basis, which is cash plus arrears. And that have a program to pay off this 44 billion in the next 7 years. But from now, don't add one more CD of arrears. Whether it is electricity, it is water, it is contractor, it is service provider, pay everything every year. So you see, the gaps for clever accounting and financial engineering is being closed. We will now see people for the true size and the true length. Randy, Bank of Ghana has already signed a memorandum of understanding as a condition for this program not to lend to the government of Ghana, provide any guarantees anymore. Not just that, but any state institution. You remember when we accused them and they said it's not true? You remember they attacked you and wrote a long letter?
Yes.
This report, they are reporting 44 billion exposure to government,
Yes.
Bank of Ghana.
Yes.
Where did the figure suddenly drop from?
In fact, in their own document, the document that the governor and the finance minister presented to the investors, they put under snapshot of domestic debt at end 2022. They've indicated BOG non-marketable debt, including overdraft and other non-marketable, 77.6 billion. Yeah. This is their
own document.
Yes, this is what they presented.
And they were writing English and say overdraft. You remember I came here and said that when you say you lend to government, you don't carry the money in sacks to go and give them.
No, recently I said that the Bank of Ghana has given us, until I had this kind of Bank of Ghana, I didn't know that an overdraft could be something you owe over an 18-month period.
So what they do is that at the end of the year, they monetize it. They turn it into a medium-term bond. As of now,
You said on this program where we have dealt with
so
this
we haven't done with it. It's now reflecting in an IMF program. So, Randy, we are expecting 1.2 billion. But say Beba, because 600 million is a relief package. You know, you are so dire. You write a letter telling us that, look, you are now down to the bone. You don't even have anything called reserve. And you see the numbers are showing. Your end year figure of 1.74 billion reserve is equivalent to the 1.2 plus the 530 million from the World Bank, which gives you 1.7. So you don't have a penny at the Bank of Ghana or a dollar there. So when we give you the money, the condition is that don't go and throw it into the market and pretend that you are providing money, some dollar for people to go and buy fuel.
Gold for oil.
Gold for oil. Now you don't hear it again, right? So that is the problem they have. They are telling them to reverse the recently obnoxious imposition of surrender of gold exports to Bank of Ghana. The IMF is asking them to reverse that. It is not your money. And those are the monies that goes to the bank and create forex liquidity in the banks. Because you don't have reserves, you tell the mining company when they export and they get their forex, they should come and give it to you and collect cities. You are being asked to reverse all of that. So, Randy, there are very serious times ahead. If you look at the adjustment terms in terms of expenditure, and you know, in 2022, you remember when the market was closed to them? One of the reasons was because they said they were suddenly going to grow our debt, our revenue to GDP from 12.6% to 20%. You remember I sat here and said it's not possible. The whole 3 years.
You went to Parliament to
the whole 3 years of this program, they are only growing the revenue to GDP to 18.7 over a 3-4 year program. And yet you came and said 1 year you are doing 20%. You think that the investors don't reason? They don't have history about our country? This report is asking them to go back and review and strengthen the anti-corruption action plan that was developed in 2014 by John Dramani Mahama, which they threw away and engaged in all manner of corrupt practices. They are now being directed by this program to go back and strengthen anti-corruption activities, and are referring them to that same document that they threw away to go back and strengthen it. Have you ever heard of anti-corruption action plan before? Since this book came, has it featured in their vocabulary? It was that program that made them to start going after national service and all his own appointees to clean up the system. So we have an IMF program poorly negotiated, a lobbying activity other than a technical exercise. The end result is that we have been given a program that does not solve our problem. We still are not even compliant for a program because there is no memorandum of understanding between Ghana and the creditors. As a matter of fact, there are no financing assurances. What we have been given is a respite from a magnanimous IMF that was willing to bend backwards to save our economy from total collapse.
All right.